What's going on, everybody? Toby1 Shinobi here, and today I'm going to show you how to master your twin mag assault rifle aim. That's right, I'm going to basically just give you aim tips for this new assault rifle, how to control the recoil, how to hit your shots on both controller and mouse. Now, I have a history of playing on controller in the past, but it's been a long time since I've played. I am now just a mouse and keypad user, so when you see me using a controller here, you're not going to see my typical aim, but you know, I think it's better than average in most cases, and I think I can still really help you with your controller aim because I have a lot of knowledge around that area. So yeah, we're doing both input devices, and let's get right into it. All right, so now we're going to jump into Red vs. Blue Rumble. Now, I highly recommend this map because it's got a good population. There's a large player base that plays this, all sorts of skill levels. You can see the island code up here, 6207-0778-2857. What you're going to find with Red vs. Blue is that there's a varying skill base, but there's also different types of players, right? There are people that go into this mode and they will just team up on you. They'll be like running in packs of 3 or 4. They'll be using rocket launchers and grenade launchers. If you find yourself in a lobby where just like it doesn't feel like you're taking realistic fights, people aren't 1v1ing you, you're not getting good engagements, just back out. Search for another lobby, and that's really going to help because there's tons of lobbies out here. All you have to do is back out, and you will eventually find a lobby that has decent skill level and that isn't using cheap weaponry and isn't camping spawns and that sort of thing, and that is the kind of lobby that you want to be in. Otherwise, you're not really getting good practice. You're just kind of like trying to survive, right? And you want to be out there, you want to be kind of playing aggressive and practicing your AR aim. The nice thing about Red vs. Blue is that there's all kinds of different ranges that you can play at. There's lots of targets. People are running out in the open generally. You can kind of play at different ranges and kind of figure out how to use this AR most effectively just through experience. And let's just start with some basic controller tips, right? So first of all, when you're on controller, you're really gonna rely on aim assist, right? Aim assist is super helpful on controller. And the way that you make sure that you're getting the most aim assist you can is by aiming down sights and staying moving left and right? You're gonna do most of your aim with the left stick. You're not gonna move your right stick too much. Most of your aiming on controller should be done with your left stick. You kind of get your reticle in a good spot, and then you just strafe back and forth and make minor adjustments with the right stick. So you're making most of your adjustments with the left, and then you're doing minor up and down with the right, and a little bit of right and left with the right. But for the most part, you're just aiming with that left stick. That's going to help you control your aim, be a lot more consistent, so you're not swinging all over the place, right? The next thing that I highly recommend for everyone is putting very, very, very gentle inputs on your controls. So all your controls, that is your toggles, that is your button presses, that is your trigger pulls. You can see me holding this right here. You want to basically be holding this controller very gently, like it can just, you know, like if someone were to drop it in your hands, it's just sitting there, right? You don't want to be tensing up on your controller, and you definitely don't want to be tensing on your button presses like this. You don't want to be mashing these things. You want to give the softest, most gentle input as possible on your controller at all times. Every single button you press, try to press it as gently as possible. What that's going to do is result in a much more gentle and a much more precise aim on the right stick. If you're mashing your buttons on the right, you know, on your right trigger, and you're mashing your jump buttons, you're going to mash your toggle as well. It's just like you're in that state. You're in this like aggressive, like jam the controller around state, and you don't want to be in that state ever. You always want to be in this nice, calm, kind of flowing state where you're just gently pressing your triggers. All right, so now that we've covered strafe aiming and being very gentle on your inputs, those are the two major things for good aim, and also crosshair placement, which we'll get to. Now we're going to go over our settings really quick because it is important to have certain settings on a controller in Fortnite. You need to be able to flip around fast enough at short range, but you also don't want to be out of control at long range and not be able to hit any shots. So me personally, I've kind of played around with some settings for a little bit and looked at some general guidance of what pros are using, that sort of thing. I landed on these settings: 25, 25 on vertical and horizontal look. I have my advanced settings on, so I'm using advanced options here. Then I have basically all my turning, my horizontal and vertical boosts down to 0, my boost ramp time down to 0, and I've got my ADS look speeds at 11%. Got my ADS turning horizontal boost at 0, 0, the boost ramp time 0. Look dampening time I have set to 0.07, and then my look input curve is linear. And then to my controller specifications, to how beat up this controller is, how old it is, I set my dead zone about 15% because that's basically going to allow me to flick the stick around and it's not going to give me any stick drift. And same with my left is about 13%. If you have a really new controller or a good controller, you can set that lower, and I highly recommend setting that stick setting lower. If you can get under 10%, under 8%, that's really good. That means you're going to be able to get get more and more sensitive with the movement. So if I put like this tiniest amount of movement on my stick, it's just not going to register because I have that dead zone set higher, and it's basically trying to eliminate the natural stick drift that's built into this controller. So I cannot make tiny movements on this controller, unfortunately, because it's a little bit older and the sticks are loose. So that's the settings. Okay, so to start, I usually go down here, you know, towards the bottom, and I just start seeing if I can find some targets. And again, we're going to be practicing left stick aiming, very gentle inputs on the controller, and good crosshair placement. So good crosshair placements looks like this, right? I think someone's coming up around this area. I'm putting the crosshair at their height of their chest, and I'm just kind of like waiting for them to come around that corner, right? Or come up that ramp. Right here, I'm good crosshair placement. I'm basically getting ready to take these shots when these guys land. And we're doing most of our aiming on the left stick. And it's the same with shotguns, right? Like, most of your aiming is down the left stick. How are you still alive? Oh, I just got the glitch. That is the other thing I'll note about this map, is that people will use cheats on it where they have just like an absurd amount of health. I think it's only for like the first 3 minutes or something. It's really annoying. I hate it. I think it should definitely be taken out, but it's just how it is. So the first 3 minutes you might run into people that just don't die, which is frustrating, but you know, sometimes that can mean more aim practice. Now the next thing I will note about using the twin mag is that you want to tap fire this weapon, right? You want to be basically taking single shots at long range. At long range, you really want to tap fire because that's going to allow you to hit more shots, conserve your magazine, and not have to reload between shots. If you try to full auto this weapon at long range, it doesn't have like a maximum recoil height, and it will just continue to climb, and it just climbs ever so slowly, but it's still kind of a lot to manage. And I like to just tap fire, use less ammo at long range, hit more shots, and have more intent with each of my shots. I just basically let that bloom reset at super long ranges, and I just kind of left stick aim, right? I'm just kind of left stick aiming, doing a little bit of minor movements on my right, and that's how I recommend using this weapon on a controller. Even mouse and keyboard is mostly left and right toggle, you could say, or strafe aiming, right? And again, just really focus on those light inputs, because that's really going to help you out with your vertical aim as well and your horizontal aim. Now this is a pretty good lobby for aim, because these guys are kind of running out in the open. They're just being generally good, easy targets. They're not like pushing me or doing too much. Oh, this guy has a ton of health, so that guy has the 350 HP glitch, or 500 HP, whatever it is. That's kind of annoying, but this is a good lobby because, you know, these people aren't really using rocket launchers. They're not like teaming up like crazy, and you know, they're fairly easy skill level, but they're also running out in the open, giving us some good practice. All right, so now we're holding mid, and we're gonna see if we can get some mid-range practice in that strafe aiming and easy movements on the toggles. Now, when you're at like really close range with this weapon, you can also just hip fire it. It actually has pretty decent hip fire for the first like 3 or 4 bullets. So you can see right there, it's just all left and right aim. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead up to this upper part, and we're gonna kind of just fire down on people. These people are starting to get a little campy up here. We're gonna try to clear them out. And this is where we practice our long range aim, right? And that again is just strafe aim, get your reticle in the right position, and then let it cross over them, and then pull the trigger. So again, it's not about quantity here, it's more about quality of the shot, because you wanna conserve that ammo and just be hitting kind of like little dinks, right? Sometimes these guys just stay put for you, which makes things very easy. Yeah. Now, this is where mouse and keyboard has a huge advantage, right? At these long ranges where there isn't a lot of aim assist, and you're really just having to pull that trigger as soon as it crosses someone's body, which I gotta say is pretty hard to do on a controller. It's really hard to be very precise, especially if you have stick drift and you have to set your dead zones pretty high. It makes it very difficult to be very precise, right? Like my controller in particular, it's not the best at this point. I can't make super minor adjustments, and I kind of have like this big swinging aim which is not the best for long range aim, right? So that's pretty much my tips for controller. A lot of that's going to apply to mouse and keyboard as well, but you'll see now I'm going to switch over to mouse and give you some tips there. But again, the controller tips are these. One, get your settings right so that you have decent long range, but you also can flip around fairly quick in a close range fight. Number two, use left stick aiming or strafe aiming, just basically doing most of your aiming with your left stick. Set your crosshair in a place where it's going to hit people when they come around the corner, and then you just strafe around and you take those shots, right? And then third, be very, very gentle on those inputs. Whatever button you're pressing, just be very gentle on it, because that's going to result in more gentle movement on your sticks, right? On your left stick and your right stick. You're just going to be more gentle. You're going to hit more shots because you're just being more intentional and more like, you know, smooth on the controls. And smooth is good. And yeah, then I guess the fourth thing is just crosshair placement, right? Just have your crosshair in a good spot. Predict where the enemy is going to be and pull the trigger when it's over them. And then I guess fifth would be tap firing at long ranges, right? Don't be holding this weapon down. Do not be auto firing, full auto firing at long range, because you can see just how much this thing climbs, and at long range it's very hard to control that. Whether you're on a mouse or a controller, it's just hard to hit consistent shots. Like right there, I hit one shot and now I have to reload, and basically I'm out of the fight, right? So sometimes you can get like a nice spray on people, but a lot of times I just find it like not really worth it unless they're running in a straight line or being a super easy target to hit. All right, now really quick, I want to go over some things in game that also affect the Twin Mag AR, such as augments and kind of how to use it. I will note that at like very close range like this, it is actually fairly usable as an SMG. So you can hit someone with a pump and then finish them with the AR just fine, as long as you're about this close from them, from this wall right here. If you get out further like this and you're hip firing, you're gonna miss a lot of shots. It really isn't the greatest at hip firing from longer ranges. But stuff like this range right here, it's pretty good, you know? It's hitting shots, and it works fine in a pinch. And you can definitely run a 2-gun loadout if you'd like. You can run an infiltrator shotgun and a twin mag AR, and then carry 2 pieces of equipment and heals or something like that. That is what I really recommend if you're really trying to win games. Carrying 2 pieces of equipment is very good. I usually carry shockwaves and bunkers, and it's gonna win you a lot of games. Like, you really don't always need that SMG. If you're playing smart and you're playing the right positions, it's often better to have just 2 guns and 2 pieces of equipment and then heals. Now, the next thing I'll mention about the Twin Mag AR is the Augment Scoped Salvo. Now, Scoped Salvo is really, really good on this weapon, because what it does is it slows down your fire rate and increases the damage per shot. The slowdown on the fire rate is actually a good thing, because it actually increases the stability. So check this out. This is me full auto firing this weapon. You know, it's got a lot of kick, right? So if you're full auto firing, you kind of have to fight the recoil, but you know, and you're also landing 26 to the body, right? 26 to the body. But if we put on Scope Salvo, it becomes much easier to manage that recoil, because it shoots slower. So you're slowing down that fire rate, but you're also getting increased stability, and you're saving your magazine, right? You're not gonna like be wasting so many bullets, which often results in just killing enemies faster, honestly. And because you don't get caught on a reload trying to finish off the kill, usually you're gonna conserve that ammo and you're actually gonna be able to finish off more kills. So we were doing 26 to the body earlier, and now we're doing 29 to the body. 36 to the body, actually, sorry. So we're doing 36 to the body from this range with Scope Salvo, and that is honestly just really, really good. And again, it makes the gun so easy to control when you've got that type of fire rate. It's almost just like you don't really need to tap fire it at this point, because you've got Scope Salvo on. It becomes very controllable. The recoil is very manageable, and you don't have to worry so much about like tap firing at longer ranges. I know in this video that I do state that I always tap fire this weapon, but if I have Scope Salvo, I'll often just hold down the fire, because that's basically tap fire and it has very controllable recoil. Also pretty good at hip fire as well. All right, really quick, I do want to compare a green version of the Twin Mag to a gold version, just to give you an idea of the difference in recoil and damage. Okay, so the green version of the Twin Mag AR, and you can see right here, I'm starting right here, and this is with Scope Salvo on, so it's a little more controllable, but the gold version looks like this. You can see it climbs a little less, very controllable, especially with Scope Salvo. And when we hit body shots with this gun, With a gold, with scope salvo, we do 42, and with a green, we do 36. And I will say with the gold version of this gun, you can actually hip fire it pretty well from a little bit further out. So you can see it's pretty devastating, and that's like, you know, pretty much SMG range. So you can definitely get away with a 2-gun loadout, especially with a gold twin mag assault rifle. And the gold twin mag assault rifle can actually be gotten off of any radio tower boss, guaranteed. So if there's a radio tower boss in the area and you kill them, you are guaranteed to get a gold twin mag AR. So that is pretty awesome because there will always be 3 guaranteed gold twin mags in the game. And as you can see, this guy drops one. And radio towers can always be found on the map by looking at these symbols right here. Oh my goodness. So yeah, these radio tower bosses always drop slurp juices and gold twin mags, which is just fantastic. Usually I have shockwaves as well. Now, one more tip with the twin mag AR is that because it has fast reload, what I highly recommend is that when you are breaking down cover with this weapon, right, before you break down the whole thing, reload your weapon so that once you break it down, you can actually keep shooting the player who is behind it, right? Otherwise, because the magazine size, what's going to happen is you'll break the tree and then you're just going to have to reload while the player is exposed. So always get like, you know, 75% of the way through your clip, then reload and then finish breaking the cover. And then you'll be able to shoot the player on the other side of the cover without having to reload before finishing them off. But yeah, honestly, the rarity of this gun doesn't make a huge difference. As long as you're tap firing or you're using scope salvo, you're going to be hitting shots pretty darn well no matter what rarity it is, right? So that's just some general in-game information for you. Let's get back into the aim tips. All right, now before we get into mouse gameplay and like mouse tips and tricks for just like, you know, controlling your character and how to hit more shots just in general with a mouse, let's show you the fundamentals because this is going to make the biggest difference by far in your aim with a mouse and keypad, mouse and keyboard, whatever you're using. This is going to change how you aim forever if you're not doing this. So a lot of people will come in and they'll start using a mouse and they'll palm grip it like this. They'll basically put the entire mouse in their palm and then just close their fingers and they do this, right? The huge problem with that is that it's all wrist and arm movement, right? They cannot make any precise movements with their fingers. I'm trying to aim with my fingers right now. I can't do it. There's nothing there. I have no movement at all. I can barely move my mouse, right? So the way that you want to do it is either a fingertip grip or a claw grip. I use a claw grip. Both grips are very similar and I'm not going to get into it right now. Let's just keep it basic for you guys. The idea is that you want to be using your fingers, right? You want to grip this mouse in a way that basically it's your thumb and pinky doing most of the holding, and then your fingertips are kind of resting on it, right? And then they can press gently on these buttons and you're not doing a lot of like heavy inputs, similar to a controller, right? Like you want to do gentle inputs. So gentle means like you're very lightly tapping these buttons and you're very gently moving this with your fingers. And so now that is basically the equivalent of writing with a pencil with your fingertips. If you are palm gripping a mouse, if you're gripping it like this, you are basically a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old writing with a crayon with just your wrists, right? And your arm. You're palm gripping, you're just fisting that pencil and you're just, right? You've got no fine motor movement and that is a huge problem. So you definitely want to be using a claw grip or a fingertip grip so that you can move the mouse with your fingers left, right, up, and down. It's a huge difference, and I promise you, if you switch to that type of grip, it is going to be a huge difference for you, guaranteed. It doesn't matter how good of a palm grip you have, you are always going to be less accurate, especially at longer ranges, because you're not going to have those fine movements. Now you can see my screen now, you can see my mouse. So with a fingertip grip, look how small of movements I can make. You know, I'm using a claw grip, but I can make these tiny movements, right? If I do a palm grip, right? Me making those tiny movements means I have to move my whole hand. This is about as precise as I get, and it's really hard. The whole thing is sliding around, and it's just kind of a nightmare. So that is the difference. I can make these tiny little adjustments. Look how quickly I can outline this little album right here pretty accurately, right? If I'm gonna do a palm grip, right? I'm not accurate. Like you can see how wavy my movement is. You know, if I try to like make very precise movements, it's not precise. It's moving my whole arm and my wrist. That is my biggest piece of advice when you are aiming with a mouse. Definitely go for fingertip or claw grip. Do not palm it. I swear by it, you will have a huge improvement in your game as soon as you stop palm gripping the mouse. Just try to do a fingertip grip. Grab that mouse with your pinky and your thumb, and then put your fingers over it, and don't touch the back of the mouse fully to your palm. That's my biggest tip for mouse aim. I swear, you get used to that, it's going to change your game completely. Your aim is going to change overnight. Okay, so now let's just get into general discussion about mouse aiming, right? So when you're using a mouse, you're still doing the strafe aiming. You're still doing a lot of left and right movement, and then you're making minor adjustments with the right stick or the mouse, right? Right now I'm strafing to the left, and then I'm pulling the trigger, and I'm moving my right arm a little bit, or my mouse, but I'm mostly making a lot of my aim with my movement. It's no different. It's still very helpful to make those minor adjustments with your left stick. You can get very precise, right? And just kind of put the mouse where it needs to go. And yeah, it's very helpful. So, kind of the same thing, very light movements, finger movements on a mouse is going to be huge. And then we're also left stick aiming, or WASD aiming with your A and D key, left and right, and that's really going to help out. Now, the next thing I will say for both inputs, the way to really hit shots is to not have lazy aim. And when I say lazy aim, I mean you need to really focus on your opponent. Really focus on their body. Do not be looking at your crosshair. Purely look at your opponent's body. At long range, medium range, it doesn't matter. I'm just looking at this guy's body, and I'm trusting that my hand movements and my eye coordination is going to do the work for me, and it will. Your hand and eye coordination is a lot better than you think. That's one of the biggest things for both controller and mouse. Avoiding lazy aim, which lazy aim is like, if I'm looking at this character right here, a lot of times people are kind of like not focused on the character itself. Right there, I'm just zoning in on that dude's head, zoning in on his neck, I'm zoning in on this girl, and it's all about just zoning in on someone's body. Do not let your eyes slip off of their body. It's a huge difference. It's going to make a big difference on controller and mouse and keyboard when you're really, really focused on the body. It's really going to make a difference at longer ranges where you need to really hit your shots because you have to be very precise, right? So if I'm looking right at this person's body and I'm not looking at my crosshair, I'm going to hit a lot more shots than if I were just looking at the crosshair and trying to line it up on the person's body. Do you understand the difference there? It's looking at the body, not looking at the surroundings, not looking at the crosshair. You're focused in on the player, on the enemy, and you're just kind of letting your eyes and your hand or your thumbsticks or your fingers, whatever, it's all doing the work. You just got to trust that your body has the hand-eye coordination, and you just got to focus your aim and your eyes on the enemy. Apart from that, for mouse and keyboard, you're definitely going to be using left stick still, and you're also going to be able to control recoil and your aim a little bit better at long ranges. So at ranges like medium or even long, when somebody's kind of standing still, I will go ahead and just fight the recoil and do full auto if they're standing still, right? If I want to hit as much damage as quickly as possible, if I catch them off guard, I will full auto this weapon. But a lot of times I won't when someone's running through an open field or being hard to hit. If they're moving like I am right now and doing kind of crazy movements, probably not going to full auto. I'm probably going to tap fire this weapon. But at medium range like this, I'm definitely full auto. Okay, and then the next thing that goes for mouse and keyboard and controller is just practice breathing as you're hitting shots. Be very calm, be gentle on the controls. Don't click your mouse too hard, because if you do, you can't really see it, but it's gonna cause you to kind of do minor micro flicks that are gonna make you miss. If you press the mouse button very gently, you're gonna hit a lot more shots because you're not gonna be moving your mouse every time that you click, if that makes sense. So you can see if I'm full auto right there, it's really hard to keep it stable and keep precision aim. But if I start tap firing right at this range right here, this guy's gonna peek me. I'm gonna go ahead and tap fire him over and over again, and my reticle is not going to climb as high. There's not gonna be as much recoil, and I'm gonna hit more consistent shots if I start firing a little bit slower and just tap the trigger. And that is what I really, really recommend, whether you're on controller or on mouse and keyboard, is tap firing, because you're just gonna have a lot better accuracy. Okay, and then something that goes for mouse and keyboard as well as controller, again, is just good crosshair placement, right? Always put your crosshair where you expect the enemy to come from, and just be ready to pull that trigger when they get there. Right now, I'm tap firing. It may seem like I'm going full auto, but I'm actually tap firing this weapon, and I'm getting reduced recoil because of that. Also focusing on the body. So yeah, those are pretty much my tips. You know, a lot of it will overlap, as I said before. You want to do a lot of the same things you do on controller that you would on a mouse and keyboard. Light inputs, crosshair placement, focus on the enemy. Don't commit to lazy aim because you are basically hurting yourself badly if you're not focused in on your enemy. But yeah, guys, that is about all the tips I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. If you have any tips yourself, or if you have anything that you found was really helpful, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear it. You know, we're all trying to learn here. We're all trying to improve. So any kind of tips that you have, I think will be helpful for anyone else browsing through the comments. And if you found this video super helpful, go ahead and leave a like on the video. It helps me greatly, really helps the channel grow, and just lets me know that, you know, you appreciate the work that I put in. And if you want to improve your zero build game even further, go ahead and check out my must watch playlist on my YouTube channel. I think it's really going to help you out. And I'm sure once you watch that, you're going to want to subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn that notification bell on so you get alerted every time I drop a new video. And then if you want to take your training even further, consider joining the Shinobi Clan as a master level member. You get training 3 days a week with myself and other master members. We do a lot of things in the master trainings. You know, we have an advanced group, we have an intermediate, a novice group, and we do drills with those lower levels, and we do strategies and tactic talks with the more advanced groups, and we do zone wars, and we do FFA, all kinds of things. And we're all trying to improve our gameplay. We all have a similar mindset, and we're trying to help each other improve at the game. It's a very, very cool place to be, and it's really going to help your gameplay. I know, especially for the novice and intermediate levels, it has made a huge difference in their gameplay already, just having these trainings 3 days a week, even 1 day a week. If you're interested, go ahead and check out my master level membership. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a good day. Shinobi out.